Bרגер, clinical psychologist at the Center for Compassionate and Mindful Education. Dr. Bергger, thank you very much for joining us. Well, first, from what we know, from what we can say, from what we can assess, what is the status of those who are no longer hostages but now released? I would dare to carefully say that it is perhaps, physically speaking, better than what we feared, maybe?
Yes, good evening. I think that physically they seem to be okay, though I don't know. We haven't checked them out, and so Schneider Hospital will determine that. But psychologically, it's the issue. Any kid, depending on his age or her age, that have gone through this ordeal, terrible ordeal, from the time that they have seen the terrorists coming, killing people, seeing bodies, to the place where they were captured by the parents, who seem to have been horrific. They were seeing some of the faces of the mothers taking their child. I don't know if you've seen the two red-haired kids. The mother was in horror. This is imprinted in child's mind, you know, and I think that is the main issue that we're talking about. So I think that is what we need to take care of. And I want to tell you another thing. The Hamas know no boundaries. You know, there was an example of I think, 10-year-old girl who was separated from the mother. The agreement was the mothers and children should be released together, and she wasn't released, her mother, and she had to separate from her mother, saying goodbye. And I can imagine, or you can imagine, what is it like for a mother to see her kids going away, for the kid to see it when she leaves her mother in the Hamas, tunnels. This must be
and
really
also many fathers are staying behind. It's important to note in this instance. Yeah.
I just think that, you know, kidnapping a 4-year-old who've lost two of her parents, what thought is beyond that? Why are you not releasing her in the first time? I mean, these things are unbelievable. We know, for example, that even a 3 and a 4-year-old, the feeling is imprinted in their body, even if they don't understand the setting. But when they sense the horror and the threat that is imprinted on their, all the adults' faces, they really have it in their body. Yeah. And it takes time to process it. So we are now in front of this experience where we really have to slowly bring them back to life and work with them so that this traumatic experience will be sort of processed and they can go back to life. It's not an easy process whatsoever.
And to that point, exactly, Dr. Bергger, you know, it's uncharted territory for everyone, including, of course, the medical teams, physically and mentally. But it seems that the preparation is, at least for the first phase of receiving the hostages, were somewhat right, and yet try to illustrate for us what does it mean long term. It's a long process still ahead.
Yeah, well, the first time, and that was well prepared by the medical team, there is psychologists and a social worker that is attached to every kid. Now, the first thing is to sort of block them from all this publicity and the carnival of all the cameras and journalists and the other people, and just very slowly introduce them to people who they love, to think that they're used to, whether it's a dog or a toy, and to friend, very slowly. The next stage is to help them deal with what they have seen. And you remember, some of them had lost their fathers and other family member. So they would have to introduce very slowly to this fact and then work on grieving and help them deal with the situation. So it's a very slow process. And I think that, psychological and social worker teams are going to be taking them very gently, long time. They'll stay with them for a long time. Each one has committed himself or herself to be with a kid for a very long time. And I think that's important, because oftentimes what happened to hostages, that different people come to their life. One of the major things is the lack of trust in people. When you see such horrific thing, you lose trust. And you have to have the same people support you for a long run. Play with you, talk to you, find a way to express your feeling. It's very hard to express the feeling. They're probably shocked by now, and we'll see how they will be handled very, very slowly.
And in this respect, Dr. Berger, you know, everyone who was ever in Israel, even if just for a day, can vouch for that. Israelis, they like to hug, and they like to show love, and they love to show affection. And obviously, in those past 51 days, the one big family, which is Israel, became even more so. But as much as we want to perhaps show it, it's not about what the Israelis want, but what about they want. The hostages now released. So bottom line, Dr. Berger, do's and don'ts for Israelis.
Well, don't really overhug them and jump over them and show your love. Do it very slowly. But do have a consideration to where they are. We've seen the people who were standing by the side of the road, waving their hands, putting the flag. This is a very nice introduction because it's really affecting all of us. You know, as you can imagine, kids are very dear to all of us, as they are for other people all over the world. So just the fact that we are showing them from far some support, that's one thing. The other thing is to allow them to very slowly, I say many times very slowly, because it's really easy to sort of hug them and get them back to school and start with life, but they can't. They have to do it step by step. They have to be introduced slowly into their families, into people they know, talking about what has happened. You know, it depends on the age of the kid, but I mean, adolescent can be sort of processed verbally, talked about it. Young kids, you need to, do it with play. And we need the parents to be part of the treatment because it's really important. They can trust their loved ones. They lost trust not because the parents weren't there, but because the parents were also victims of these horrific crimes, I think.
Still a long and winding road, but they're here, and hopefully all of them will be here soon, and they'll get all the support they need for the long run. Dr. Ronnie Berger, clinical psychologist at the Center for Compassionate and Mindful Education, thank you very much for speaking with us and helping us to get a better understanding at the struggles that are still ahead.
I want to say one thing. May I say one thing? We do seem to be optimistic about their chances. Kids are very resilient. And if you treat them well and slowly, I believe that they can go back to normal life. It will take time, but I'm optimistic.
And so are we. So are we. Thank you very much, Dr. Ronnie Berger, for this. Thank you. And we want to